sure everyone has heard of this word. In the last 2 years, it has become a household phenomenon. Almost everybody is talking about it. It's in the news, it's in the media, and this word is Bitcoin and all cryptocurrencies. The best explanation I've heard of it so far was on John Oliver, and how he described it was, it's everything you don't understand about finance combined with everything you don't understand about technology. Alright, so I'm not an expert in this, these are my own opinions, and I'm not giving advice, so those are just a couple of important disclaimers. Alright, go to the next slide, please. So this is kind of what's going on in a lot of people's minds who have no idea what it's about, and that's effectively what I'm trying to do today. I want to talk about what it's about, why it started, what it's good for, and what to be careful of. So just sort of high-level summarization of the most important things to know about this phenomenon. All right. So we can go to the next slide. The genesis of this idea was right after the 2008 financial crisis, where the stock market took a huge plummet, and a lot of people were really concerned about this financial system that we exist in. Capitalism was seen as this terrible thing, and almost like the banks and the financial systems were in too much control. So people wanted to bring some of that control back into their own lives. And what happened was this group of cypherpunks, they are people that are cryptographers, very intelligent people involved in the IT industry, like many guys sitting here today. And what they decided to do was to try and move away from dollar, move away from the Federal Reserve and these big financial institutions, and create their own currency. That was the brainchild of it. How they managed to achieve this, because effectively they got quite far along in this idea, and I'd say they're relatively successful. How they managed to succeed in doing this technically, and how Bitcoin actually works, is effectively they solved a number of problems of how to take a physical currency, like let's take, say for example, gold, which was the fundamental original currency, or dollars, which is something that you can exchange hand to hand or digitally. How do you take that original physical thing and convert it into a digital world with a number of challenges? So for example, a handwritten signature is it's a pretty good way of determining that somebody actually signed that document. But in a digital world, if you digitize that, it's very easy to copy and paste that code anywhere. So you can forge signatures extremely easily. The way they solve that is through a private key, secret key, public key, secret key algorithm. So that was like a technological advantage of how to get that right. Then how do you convert ledgers that use dollars as the main currency into something where you can do away with dollars and do away with debt, which is quite important. So how they did that is they decided that Bitcoin is itself a ledger, and the ledger is the currency. It's not based on any other currency. So it's quite a profound concept. They said a bank is relatively safe, but in the digital world, storing your database in one place can be easily hacked. So how they got away with that is to try and decentralize it. One of the advantages of real currency is that it's difficult to acquire. If you wanted to get a bunch of gold, you had to go and mine it. It was a very difficult process. And with computers, if you try to digitize that, you get supercomputers out there, very, very powerful computers that could easily do a lot of work. So the way they got around that is to use a proof of work concept, which can make it, doesn't matter how much computing power you use, it's going to take the same amount of time to dig up the same amount of Bitcoins. Similarly, if you have a bunch of coins, you can only give one coin to one person at a time, because there's a physical thing that you're giving away. In the digital world, you could pretend to give 2 coins to 2 different people at the same time. So how they solved that problem is through the blockchain. So every time a transaction is processed, it has to form a link in the chain, and you cannot duplicate that. And then lastly, in the real world, containing a lot of information takes up physical space, and in the digital world, to some degree, that's also true. How they got around that is by using this hashing phenomenon where you can prove an entire database with a small bit of code. So that's the idea. Technically, it got to a point where the founder of Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto, who no one actually knows the true identity of yet, put enough of these concepts and solutions together to actually form a viable solution to properly digitize the currency. Now there's over 1,600 of these currencies. There's all different types that you can think of, all achieving different things. Bitcoin is the original one here, but you've got Ethereum, you've got Ripple, you've got Litecoin, you've got DogeCoin, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later. And it's quite a fascinating world out there. Currently, the market cap of Bitcoin alone is $124 billion. All the cryptocurrencies together is about $300 billion worth of cryptocurrencies. So that's quite impressive. Interesting fact, there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoins. At the moment, there's about 17 million in production, but the idea is that to create this demand-supply dynamic, where Bitcoin contains its value and without inflation eroding the value, they said no more than 21 will ever be produced. Okay, couple of interesting stories here. If we go to the next slide. The very first thing ever bought with Bitcoin was 2 pizzas from Papa Joe's. A person by the name of Laszlo Haniers bought these 2 pizzas with 10,000 Bitcoins. At that time, it was worth about $41. So not a bad deal in 2010. If he had kept those Bitcoins, they would be worth 900 million Rand today. So probably the most expensive pizzas ever purchased in history. Another interesting fact, these computers that help keep the system alive and that are mining Bitcoin generate or require as much electricity as a third of the entire electricity supply of South Africa. That's the level of electricity consumption currently in the world used by Bitcoin. Another interesting story here, this is Toby, that's my crypto kitty. I purchased it with 0.25 Ethereums, and it's an interesting use of cryptocurrency technology where I've actually got this digital pet that I can sell and breed and all that kind of thing. If we go to the next slide, I want to quickly talk about it being a bubble. This is the tulip bubble that happened in 1637. It was the worst crash of any commodity in history. This is Bitcoin as at middle of 2017. So quite similar. Now, you think that this is quite a scary looking graph. This was middle of 2017. Double this, all right? Well, take that graph, double it again. That was the peak of Bitcoin. So people talk about it being in a bubble. I'll leave that call to yourself. And then in my second last slide, a couple of key quotes here. Warren Buffett doesn't like it. He says that it's not an investment, it's a speculative thing. There's no inherent value in it. So you can get into it, but it's basically gambling. That's not the type of game he plays. Bill Gates says it's a greater fool theory. In other words, you'll only make money from Bitcoin if you can sell it to somebody who thinks it's still going to go up while you're trying to get out. So that's quite interesting. 50 Cent in 2007, or what is it? Sorry, 2015, sold a couple of CDs in exchange for Bitcoin. He forgot about it, and he realized a couple months ago that he had these Bitcoins. It's now worth $8 million. So that was his quote there. He didn't even know he had them. My last slide is this specific coin here. It was started as a joke called DogeCoin on the Reddit community. This just talks about the speculation, the hype, and the hysteria around Bitcoin. This thing probably did 3,000% in the last 12 months. It was literally started as a joke. It's not even meant to be a real currency. And the motto of this coin is "to the moon." So yeah, that just gives you an idea of all the craziness around this specific topic. Thank you very much.